I'm sure you're probably confused about my title, so let me define that first. Ubermensch is the German word for Superman, or the ideal man. Ecce Homo is Latin for behold man. So the full title is Behold Man, on making the ideal man or the Superman. And that will become more clear as I continue. Let me define augmentation and some different subcategories of augmentation that you will need to understand my discussion. First, I will define augmentation as to make something greater by adding to it or by replacing a part of it. And two subcategories of augmentation are internal and external. External being something like glasses or clothing that seek to improve the functionality or capability of the body, but don't fundamentally change it. Internal augmentation is something like LASIK eye surgery or plastic surgery, which changes the body fundamentally. Augmentation today is evolving very rapidly with technology that has come about in the past 50 years. Things that were thought previously only to be possible in sci-fi are now becoming a reality. But before I get too much into what augmentation will be, or what is currently and will be in the near future, allow me to discuss the origins of augmentation and how it was originally used. Augmentation was originally and primarily used as a sign of social status, for example, war paint, tattoos, and piercings. You could use these for tribal markings or simply to depict if you were on the upper echelon of the economic society. But augmentation is not only aesthetic, it also has a functional purpose. It can be used as a crutch or a wheelchair, or a peg leg, which we've had for over thousands of years even. But none of these significantly alter the body, something which is becoming more and more a reality and capability of technology today. In 1970, Dr. Robert White transplanted the head of a monkey onto the body of another monkey. The head retained its memory and all 5 of its senses except for touch. This being due to the fact that the spinal cords of the head and the body could not be connected due to the limited technology at the time. Some medical researchers believe that today this is possible, that they could actually connect the spinal cords using the technology we have, and they could perform this on humans, in fact. Although the medical community remains skeptical of this, and no one has signed up as of yet to donate their head or body. We are also able to synthesize organs from DNA. Although the process is very expensive and not very expedient, this is the reason why it's not very ubiquitous today, is because usually when someone needs a replacement organ, they need it rather quickly. They don't have time to wait 8 to 12 months. Although this process is being developed to be much more cheaper and much quicker so that it is able to actually be used in the field. But not all augmentation is relating to organic things. There are things like prosthetics. RoboCop, there's being a remake that's coming out soon. This is becoming actually more and more possible. It's no longer just sci-fi. Researchers have been able to add sense of touch to prosthetics, and prosthetics also are able to have almost 90% of the functionality that an actual arm has. Although these specific limbs are very rare and very expensive, but they will be commonly used in the next decade or so. Since augmentation is evolving much more quickly than it has in the past with recent technology, we must consider it carefully. In our current age, technology is being thrown at us so quickly that we are unable to understand and think about it and its proper applications. If we are not careful with augmentation, it could soon recreate us. Imagine a world where everyone has some sort of augmentation. No longer is anyone natural born. They are augmented from birth and augmented throughout their life to make the Ubermensch. There is an example of a Greek ship that went throughout the Aegean Sea. It was pirating and looting. And after every battle, it would take parts from the other ship it had conquered and repair itself. Let's call it the USS Homer. Eventually, the ship was so full of parts from other ships that it was no longer the ship it started out as. Much the same is with our human body. At what point of augmenting it is it no longer human, if there is even a point of that? But if there is a point, at some point we have to draw a line in the sand. We cannot look to technology to fix every problem our body presents us, but we cannot shun it entirely. Both of these extremes are just irresponsible.
So, with augmentation, we should try to improve the quality of life without the expectation of perfecting it. We should try to improve the length of life without the expectation that one day we will be able to make it indefinite. We should have the hope of eternal life, but it should be from God, not from technology. Transhumanism is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the belief or theory that the human race can evolve beyond its current physical and mental state by means of science and technology. The way transhumanism is sought about is by changing the quality of life. And in order to do this, they have a scale. They judge life by the minimization of pain and the maximization of pleasure. This scale should make you cringe a little bit. Obviously, some pleasure is bad, and there is also some pain that is good. For example, education. As the saying goes, the roots of education are bitter, but its fruit sweet.
Learning's not always fun, but once you have the knowledge, you're glad you do. One of the ways transhumanists propose to change our human race into transhuman is through uploading our consciousness. There's a movie coming out called Transcendence. I haven't seen it, but it does look interesting. Basically, scientists have taken human brain tissue, put electrodes on it, given it electrical stimuli, and recorded the electrical responses. With this, they have taught it to fly an airplane in a simulator with various weather conditions. Now, this, they hypothesize, they can apply to the human brain. They can take the entire brain, map its electrical responses in response to stimuli, and thus replicate our consciousness. But this poses many problems, one of them being with the soul. If our consciousness is just a set of action and reaction pairs of electrical impulses, what part does the soul play in our consciousness? This begs further question. What is our humanity? Our biological body seems necessary to keep our humanity, or at least some of our biological body. Christ came in the form of a man. That has significance and meaning, and we should not forsake it so quickly. As I was doing my research, I read a book called Becoming Human. Jean Vanier, a French Christian, was working in the field with mentally disabled people, and he realized something. He says that loneliness is a state of human condition. We were created to be with God, and when we are not, we are in a state of loneliness. And in order to become human, you must learn that this is part of you and learn to live around it, showing that there is some weakness to the human state, and we have to be okay with some weakness. We shouldn't try to perfect our bodies beyond what God had them, but yet we should try to enable ourselves to live to the fullest. Another way transhumanists try to bring our race beyond what it is right now is through cryo freezing and nanotechnology. I'll explain nanotechnology first. It is essentially white blood cells, mechanical white blood cells, that are injected into your body and can repair it from anything. This would eliminate almost every disease, even aging. However, this technology is not going to be available for quite a few decades, as it is only in its infancy right now. As a workaround for this, they have invented cryo freezing, which basically takes your body to sub-zero temperatures. Although preserving it, it damages it irreparably, at least for now. They hope that one day, if you cryo freeze yourself, if nanotechnology is ever even invented, you will be able to resurrect yourself with that technology. You can actually go to buildings and see people in giant metal tubes that have actually done this. Augmentation is no longer just a crutch or a wheelchair. It is becoming a way to remake ourselves into something that is more than human. Earlier I said we must draw a line. Allow me to illustrate that line. Suppose you have a child who was born without legs, and you have the ability to give him prosthetic legs. Should you or should you not? Conversely, you have someone who has legs, and they want to cut off their legs and get new legs. Should you give them those legs or should you not? I would argue that you should give the child who has no legs the legs, and the person who has legs, you should not give them legs and encourage them to keep their legs. This reason being, the child who doesn't have legs cannot experience and interact with the world around him as other humans can. And the child deserves this and should be able to have it. However, the person who has legs doesn't want the legs so they can interact with the world around them. They want them so that they can become more than human. They are not satisfied with their humanity. When we augment, we should be trying to restore people to a normative state so that they can enjoy life as other humans can. We should not try to exceed humanity and sate our hubris. With this, I will leave you one last thought. Humanity is an important and valuable gift from God. We should not be so quick to forsake it, for the mere finite pleasure of this world. Thank you.